What sort of other potential markets could you go for other than the suborbital and orbital tourism?
Well, there's two separate things, and these are worth being addressed separately. The first is what I would describe as human factors related development work within a lot of these vehicles. And this is an area where we found our skill set, not just as suit manufacturers, but as a company that our whole job is to figure out the part of the technology that touches the people. That is, we are the direct linkage between you and the vehicle, because the suit is, if not quite touching your skin, parts of it certainly are. And we're looking at everything from comfort to the ability of you to do your job in various states, pressurized, unpressurized, emergency, normal, those kinds of things. And that skill set we found as we've looked at these different vehicles has translated into having a real eye for the human factors aspects of vehicle development. And on our side, if I looked at sort of how would we like to expand our business, especially in the larger vehicles and where there's a little more resources available, it would be to start looking at things like sort of the whole range of human factors, everything from ingress, egress to seat design to panel design to cockpit design. And we have a number of very senior people who we've brought into our organization at different times with vast experience in that. And we found that their experience and what they're bringing to the table and our team working together really renders a unique service to vehicle developers that a lot of these organizations don't have in-house. And so we think we have a lot to offer there. We've done a little bit of this work, we've been paid for a little bit of this work, but expanding that into something where we're really developing the sort of the whole range of how you interact with the vehicle. You know, I mean, it sounds so simple, but can someone who's suited flip the switches that they want to, and are those switches in the right place, and is the panel well designed for normal as well as emergency procedures, and how do they interact with the seat, and how does the suit interact with the seat, and is the suit and the seat see some level of close integration, or is it meant to be quite separate, and how are those things thought together, and are there bailout procedures, and do you have to integrate things like parachutes and all the different steps involved in getting out of a vehicle safely. That's an area where I believe we have a skill set, and we've certainly worked closely with people who have a skill set. And when I look at most of the organizations that I would consider our customers, they are rightly focused on making the vehicle work, and the kinds of skill sets I'm describing are not the ones that sort of live in-house at those organizations. And so I believe we have a lot to offer there. So that's sort of one path that we've been moving out in over the last 2 years, and that's been interesting, and we'd like to see more of that and expand that a little bit. Another path, which sort of comes as a tangent out of our relationship with Hollywood and sort of our initial origin, is full-scale mock-up construction. And we've really done the waterfront of sort of cover the whole waterfront in work in that area. On the one hand, you have what I would consider completely PR mock-ups. So looks like your vehicle, and you can put it in a trailer and you can take it to conferences and trade shows and that kind of nonsense. But then on the other hand, we do all the way to fit check mock-ups and center of gravity mock-ups and simulating cable runs and other types of integration and a lot of the human factors stuff that we dealt with before. Where we've found that we have a real advantage is that there are sort of two ends of the spectrum on mock-up construction, and we can span the entire spectrum. And when I say two ends of it, in this industry at least, what I mean is, on the one hand, you have folks who think purely in visual terms, sort of a Hollywood shop style design house. And on the other side, you have organizations that think purely in technical terms. Does this simulate the exact measurements of what I want to do? Does this allow us to refine the interior, the exterior layout of the vehicle, so that we can all put our hands on it and see what's what. The problem tends to be that the more engineering-driven side of that tend to build things that look awful, and that folks look at and they don't even know that they're looking at the vehicle. And on the other hand, the visual side of it seems to have often so little understanding of the technology of the real thing that they're building, that, hey, it would look cooler if this thing had bigger fins. And the engineer is saying, wait a minute, you've just completely ruined what I was trying to accomplish. And what we do is we bridge together an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish visually or PR-wise, if that's where you're working. And on the other hand, we do understand aerospace. We understand impacts to vehicle design. We understand what people are trying to accomplish by these things. And we can sort of exist anywhere along that spectrum. So we can do engineering style mock-ups out of, either normal or very custom materials to try to accomplish various engineering tasks. And this isn't necessarily limited to things like fit checks. I mean, we've gotten into structures where they, we did one that was satellite structures where they were trying to look at light reflectivity and stuff like that. So there's a whole range of sort of engineering function that we've done, and on the other hand, we've also done the visual stuff. And to the extent that you want to fit somewhere along that spectrum, we can fit anywhere there. And we can do it in a cost-effective way. That's the other thing. The aerospace shops tend to be very expensive because they're set up to build massively more expensive hardware. So for them to go the other way and build something that doesn't need to be that expensive, it's very hard for them to come down. On the other hand, the visual side, they really do have trouble sometimes understanding what the real life purpose of what they're building is. So in both those areas, I think we've been expanding. We've done some business. We've brought in some income, and I'd like to see some expansion in those areas as well. Again, it all dovetails against the understanding of we understand people and how people begin to interact with these vehicles. So the challenge for us is that companies that are focused entirely on unmanned space flight, often it's harder for us to do business with them, even though I find myself a kindred spirit with a lot of them.